This week we're starting off with a quote from Steve Jobs, who said, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." And this quote is relevant to us this week because we are beginning to brainstorm our duo speech topics. And the best way to set ourselves up for success is to choose a topic that we are going to have a lot of fun with, that we're passionate about, and that we're ultimately going to present a very strong message to the audience. So we first want to take a look at some sample duo topics. The duo speeches are two separate speeches on the same topic. First, we have an informative speech, and then we have a persuasive speech. So let's take a look at the topic of energy conservation. If this were my duo topic, I could first create an informative speech where I teach the audience about the main sources of energy consumption in the U.S. If you look at the sample specific purpose statement here, you can see that the general purpose is to inform, the audience is my classmates, and the goal of the speech is the three main sources of energy consumption. Notice here that I'm just informing you about these three sources. I'm not making any sort of judgment, such as the need to conserve energy or the waste of energy. I'd save all that for the persuasive speech. So here, a couple things change in the specific purpose statement. First, the general purpose changes to persuade, and now I'm making a judgment. I say we need to persuade my classmates to actively conserve energy. So I'm taking a more persuasive, opinionated message here. Now I end the persuasive speech on a call to action. The call to action is a simple action that we want the audience to do at the end of the speech. And here are 3 tips for a good call to action. First, it needs to be something that we can physically do, something that is active. So I can actively change the light bulb in my home, or I can actively go online and sign a petition, or I can like an organization's Facebook page. It also needs to be something that can be done in the immediate future. So something that can be done in the moments right then and there after the speech or in the next couple of days following. Any longer than that and the audience is going to forget about your call to action, so it's not likely that they'll actually perform it. Lastly, a good call to action needs to be something that is realistic, meaning it doesn't take a lot of time, money, or effort to do. One way that I could make this particular sample call to action stronger is to actually give you guys the light bulbs. You want to pick something that the audience is very likely to do because it really isn't going to require a lot of effort from them. When you're choosing your duo topics, they need to have some type of controversial element. And I don't necessarily mean like a controversy. I just mean some type of element can be persuaded. For example, let's take the topic of teeth. On its face, you might not think that teeth are very controversial. But how many of you actually floss your teeth every single day? There is my controversial element. I actually think that it's easiest to start with a call to action and work backwards. So I'm going to show you another way to organize these speeches. So my call to action here is to floss your teeth at least twice a week. And when I look at my specific purpose statement, I really think that oral hygiene is important, so I have to persuade my classmates to practice good oral hygiene habits. And here's where things got a little tricky. I had to really think about what I was going to talk about in that informative speech. I couldn't talk about the importance of good oral hygiene. That belongs in the persuasive. I also couldn't talk about all the risks of not taking care of your teeth because, again, that's part of the persuasive speech. So I started doing some research and I realized, wow, there's a real history here. I mean, we didn't always have toothbrushes and floss. So I came up with to inform my classmates of the history of oral health care. So now you can see the progression from call to action to the persuasive to the informative speech. I've also gone ahead and taken a stab at the thesis statements for these. For example, in the persuasive I have proper oral health care habits are essential to complete overall health because problems in your mouth can affect the rest of your body. Now remember, my informative was about the history of oral health care, so again I just did some research and tried to summarize it in my thesis statement. Believe it or not, oral health care has a long history, going back to oral health specialists as early as 2600 BC in Egypt. So now you know what the two duo speeches are all about. First, you're going to choose a topic, and then you're going to present an informative speech, and later in the semester, a persuasive speech. So how do we actually brainstorm our duo topics? As you begin to brainstorm, you want to ask yourself 3 questions. What are topics I know a lot about? What are topics I love? And what are topics that my audience cares about? Ideally, your chosen topic will be a mix of all 3 of these. Now, we have a couple of parameters for our particular speech. We have 3 cohort areas that we can brainstorm our topics in. The first cohort area is health and wellness. All of the speakers in this cohort are going to be choosing topics that relate to mental and physical health for college students. Our second cohort is the career and academics cohort. Here, these speakers in this group are going to be choosing topics that relate to skills or issues that affect college students in either their current educational careers or their future professional careers. Our last cohort is the citizenship and community cohort. In this group, students are going to be presenting speeches that relate to government and local issues that affect either students directly or include issues that affect students here at Virginia Western. As you begin narrowing down potential topics, here are 3 questions you want to ask yourself. First, is it a red button topic? Meaning, is it too controversial? For example, there are certain topics such as abortion or the death penalty where you simply mention the words and the audience runs to 2 extreme positions. These red button topics are very difficult because it's not likely that you're going to make the audience do a complete 180 in their thinking in just a short 4 to 5 minute speech. So these topics either need to be narrowed down to something that achieves common ground between the 2 sides or discarded entirely. Is it too broad or complex? Remember, these are just very short speeches, 3 to 5 minutes and 4 to 6 minutes. So if it's too broad to be covered in that short time frame, we need to either narrow it down again or we need to discard it entirely. And lastly, is there enough research? We are providing 2 different speeches backed by research. So if there's not enough scholarly academic research to support these 2 speeches, then again, it probably needs to be discarded. So now you've seen some sample duo speech topics as well as some questions to consider as you brainstorm your duo speech topics. So go ahead and get brainstorming because like Steve Jobs said, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. The only way to give great speeches in the rest of the semester is to choose a topic that you really truly love and enjoy.